Hey, what's going on, guys? It's your boy, Nerd Mode On, and I'll be doing a gameplay commentary over some Call of Duty Ghosts. In this particular episode, I'll be using the SA-805, which has actually proven to be a very effective weapon. I'm very aware that you guys unlock it right out of the gate. It's one of the first weapons you'll probably use, and needless to say the least, it's actually a very strong weapon. By no means am I telling you that it's the best gun in the game with the highest rounds per minute and the also most effective damage model in the game. By no means am I saying that. But it's definitely very moderate. It's definitely not the worst gun in the game. It doesn't come close statistically speaking, and in most cases you're going to be very successful just running around with whatever gun you find to be successful with. But I would definitely say for the assault rifle category, which this weapon fits into, it's going to be good for you to kind of stick to that medium to long range accuracy. Of course, you're not going to be no sniper player. You're not going to be able to have little to no deviation like a sniper will because, well, you go full auto. You know, even if you are bursting the trigger, even if you do have the best accessories on your weapon, you're probably going to see a little deviation. You're probably going to notice that your recoil is a little too strong at those extreme ranges, but if you do pepper your trigger a little good, you can definitely try to pace it out with, 2 to 3 round bursts. You should be able to knock them out and get them out of their camp and windows, so that would be my highest recommendations, of course. But when it comes down to the map I'm going to be playing on, Whiteout, which is quickly proven to be one of my personal favorite maps. I like it just because of the snow feel. It kind of brings back that Summit kind of look to it in some aspects. Not to say that they're identical in any format, but it kind of gives me that feeling of, hey, I'm trucking through some snow, I have a good time on the cabins on one side, and then I go to the other side, and I have extreme long ranges to definitely indulge into. Now, when we talk about the ranges in which your weapon is going to be most effective, of course, if you play Domination, you're going to quickly notice that the map is broken into 3 sections that are most viable for independent weapons. If you stick more towards the actual lakeside that has the boat kind of in it, highly recommend using an assault rifle or a sniper rifle. It's going to be able to bring forth the accuracy part that you're going to be required to have in order to deplete your enemy. You're going to want to kill them in the least amount of bullets, but you're also not going to want to have to be struggling to hit your target. It's a little bit easier to definitely stick to your ranges in that circumstance, and going up against somebody that has a submachine gun, you're probably going to notice that you're going to kind of wipe them out pretty easily. Unless they get a pretty sufficient flank on you, which, try to drop some IEDs on the ground, try to drop some, definitely some countermeasures to decrease your chances of getting snuck up upon. But when it comes down to the cabin side, guys, you're going to quickly find out that using submachine guns and assault rifles are going to be your best class. Due to the sheer fact that assault rifles are pretty good in Call of Duty Ghosts, they're a lot more balanced than they were in Black Ops 2, and I would definitely say that they've definitely taken almost up their king slot, which is really nice. I missed, using my assault rifles in Black Ops 2. Black Ops 2 was heavily occupied by submachine gun users because the maps were built all around submachine guns. They didn't care if you liked assault rifles, they just wanted to have submachine guns only, and that's what made you a good player in that theoretical sense. Now, of course, in Call of Duty Ghosts, it's a little different. Assault rifles are kind of taking the king slot, maybe not as much, but they're a little bit more potent and a lot more effective than they were in the previous installment. Now, with that said, of course, being more towards the cabin side where you have the actual trees, the, more in-depth kind of snowy feel to it, you're going to quickly notice that you're going to be able to take full effect of those ranges. That's not to say that you can't use a sniper over there, but I feel like you're going to be less effective than you would be if you maybe picked up an assault rifle with minimum recoil and maybe a little bit less deviation than maybe some of the other ones that you might find in the list as well. Obviously, setting up shop next to B is a pretty good spot. You guys will notice that throughout the gameplay, I'm going to be pretty much peeking and using the lean system as much as I can, but I haven't really been able to have too much success with the lean feature because it seems to be a little bit buggy as of the moment. I feel like sometimes I'm like leaning up against a wall and the indicator's not popping up, and sometimes I'm just peeking way too much to the point where I feel like the lean feature is not as valuable as they're trying to push on. But you guys will definitely notice that sliding has quickly become one of my favorite things in the game. I use it 24/7. I use it every single chance I can because, trying to minimize your character is a huge part of Call of Duty. You guys have probably seen a lot of the pros look at the ground when they're running around because it decreases their player model and decreases the hitbox. Well, sliding does the exact same thing, and you really don't lose that much movement, and you kind of get to regain your movement after you do that. Of course, if you're running around with marathon and lightweight, you pretty much see 0 hit to your mobility, which is always nice. Now, of course, guys, I want to quickly talk about the middle of the map. We're talking about B domination, which has quickly become one of the biggest nade, stun, clusterfucks that I think Call of Duty's seen in quite some time. That's not to say that this is the only map that suffers from that kind of gameplay, but I highly recommend to you guys to be using something like a shotgun or a submachine gun. That's not to say that you can't use assault rifle in there, because I've been very successful, needless to say the least. You're just going to want to mainly focus around high RPM weapons because, well, you are pretty close to your opponent. Using cheap tactics like jump shotting and drop shotting might quickly become something that you use. I know I've been kind of drifting a little bit more towards it, not to say that, it's a bad thing by any means, and not to say that it's looked upon in the highest regard, but considering that the netcode is maybe not the most perfect as of the moment, the indicators for when you're getting hit seem to be delayed. A lot of you guys have probably noticed in Call of Duty Ghost, as soon as you get shot once, it only takes about one bullet, or it feels like you only got shot by one bullet before you drop dead and you're, waiting for the respawn screen to let you know how you died. And unfortunately, I don't know if they have any plans to adjust that. I would imagine, I'm hoping that I'm not the only one feeling this, because, the servers seem to be pretty good. I haven't had any lag or stuttering issues, at least on the, side of maybe what Black Ops 2 had, or previous Call of Duty installments, but definitely having the indicators a little delayed and not having them pop up maybe approximately when I'm actually getting shot is very frustrating, and I'm sure many of you guys have experienced instant deaths that, just are not too realistic and just don't feel very genuine of the Call of Duty franchise in most cases. I just want to quickly let you guys that I am aware that Call of Duty does occupy a higher damage model. Of course, hitting players in key areas is going to drop them quicker, but what I'm mainly referring to is it leaves you with almost minimum or 0% chance to actually be able to turn around and have a standing chance. And I'm hoping that they have something to plan to adjust that and make it a little bit better. But of course, guys, I want to kind of finish off and let you guys know about a couple of things in reference to my personal vendetta with some of the things that I'm not exactly enjoying in Call of Duty Ghost. That's not to say that, they won't be fixed in a few months, or maybe they'll be fixed immediately. I don't know what their personal plans are to get the game to be the best it can be, but knowing Call of Duty, it might be a couple of weeks before we see a patch run through, unless they actually have the ability to implement them on the fly like previous installments. But definitely I would have to say that snipers, I know you guys don't want to hear me a bitch about this, but I'm not too crazy about the quickscoping. I was really excited to hear that quickscoping might be gone or might be a little harder to do, and I definitely would have to say that it's not the case. It seems almost as easy as it's ever been, and it just seems like you get an increased kind of vantage point using the double render, which kind of more or less just allows you to zoom and see the target instantaneous, and there's no delay to it. Now, of course, maybe it's balanced, I don't know. I just noticed that a lot of people seem to be running around and just kind of having zero repercussions for it. Even if you shoot first and you kind of get 3 or 4 bullets downrange, it only takes one shot to kill you. And I'm not too much of a favor of that damage model. I don't really agree with that kind of playstyle, but I can't make you play the game any different, so I guess that's how you gotta look at it. Now, of course, with that saying all of that information, the lean feature just doesn't seem to be up to par, followed by the sheer fact that the netcode is absolute trash, in my opinion. Getting shot around corners, around steel tanks that shouldn't be able to be shot through is absolutely aggravating beyond comparison. And it only takes a little bit of fine-tuning. By no means am I a coder, and by no means am I somebody that works in the network industry by any means. But I would imagine that there is a way for them to adjust it, and I imagine they can decrease the amount of BS deaths that we are currently getting. Now, with that in mind, guys, I'm not too impressed by the killstreak list. The SATCOM doesn't seem to be working as effective as it should be. I am aware that, there is a quote-unquote ghost perk in the game that kind of, renders you useless to the SATCOM. But I feel like if I'm using, tons of them, and there's like 7 of them on the ground, there should be an advantage to using a SATCOM. I know it's an easy kill streak to get. I know everybody and their mom can get it. But when it comes down to the fundamentals of Call of Duty, I don't want some guy sitting in a corner. I don't want to see some guy running around with all the dead silent perks and running around being completely aggravating. There needs to be a counter to everything in the game, and I'm hoping that, they have something in plan to maybe make the SATCOM a little better or try to render it a little bit more powerful than it currently is, because as of the moment, I find it to be absolutely annoying to only see one guy on the minimap while, 5 other guys are just magically not appearing on it, even though most of them don't have the ghost perk or whatever it's considered in this, UAV jam or whatever the circumstance is. So, that's just my personal opinion, of course. Some of you guys will agree, some of you guys, frankly don't care, and then some of you guys, maybe you like the game how it is, but personally I have some vendettas with how it's being personally executed. Now, of course, I am really appreciative that they've actually rendered a lot more into the game. It just feels a lot more quick-paced. I do like that kind of action, but at the same expense, I like to be able to sit back and enjoy my cup of tea while I'm waiting for the game to happen. And I figure that everything's pretty balanced so far. when it comes down to it, a lot of these things that I have a problem with, I imagine will be actually fine-tuned and then actually not have a problem in the near future. And when it comes down to it, guys, I would love to know what you guys think about the game as of now. If you guys are in love with Call of Duty Ghosts, if you don't exactly like it too much, or maybe you just have a couple of vendettas with the game yourself. Maybe you look at some of the game modes and go, they got rid of my favorite game mode and they put in this piece of crap that nobody wants to play, because I've noticed that there's a few game modes they added that only uphold about 2,000 players, which 2,000 isn't a low number by any means, but they took out Demolition that upheld thousands of people and put in a game mode like Blitz that, well, isn't very successful by itself. So, I don't know, I'd like to see what you guys have to say. Let me know in the comments below if you guys agree with what they did, or maybe you guys would like to see something returned. But this has been NMO, guys, and I'll be signing off.